Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. Coming off what was a rough day around the country. And here in Lafayette, we're joined by Lafayette Police Chief Toby Aguillar. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I thank you guys for allowing me to come in this morning.
We just, we don't know. I think as a community, what do? We don't know. We don't know about Michael Middlebrook unless we knew him. I mean,
Right.
Obviously his family knows of his great character. His friends do, the people we have talked to, but, and we don't know what to do for police officers.
I tell you, first let me start by saying thank you because Lafayette, Acadiana, and beyond, with my phone is constant. My text messages, my emails, people are coming to the office bringing food. Everywhere you go, people express their condolences. It's one of those events that really brings the community together in many ways, and Acadiana does it great. And we can't, I can't express my appreciation for that. And I want the people to know that it really helps the officers because we're at a low point. This was a great tragedy. And losing Michael that way, really hit hard for an agency that has not lost an officer in decades.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
How do people, I asked at the end of the segment that we had before, I was asking Brooks David, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how your officers do it. All I know is I'm glad that there are people who can take my place, Rob's place. That's not who we are. We don't, yes,
Right.
I have a heart and I want to help people, but I'm not going to say I stand up every day and I'm going to go face danger every day, but police do that, firefighters do that. How do y'all do that every day?
Well, Corporal Middlebrook was that kind of officer.
Yeah.
He was right in the thick of things. It's where he wanted to be. It's where he loved to be. Let me tell you about this guy.
Tell us about him.
He was the officer who was always in the right place at the right time.
Really?
He recently he pulled up seconds after a 911 call of an armed robbery at a convenience store. Seconds later, he pulls up after the call, chases down the armed suspect, and arrests him. But I can go on with story after story. I mean, and I'm so happy to see that the media is covering some of his life and the great things he did in the community. He was the spearhead that brought many people to justice in our city, but he was also the cradle of compassion for many people in our city, and he just went above and beyond and was recognized for that.
Well, we had someone who called in yesterday during Carol's show in the afternoon and was talking about, kind of taking the lead on getting, food to people who needed it, whether it was
That's right.
things, things have to expire out, but it's not necessarily bad, but from area convenience stores and getting it to people who need it, or whether it was collecting clothes when he was off duty and when he was on patrol.
That's right.
Seeing people and they kind of knew him that way.
An amazing person, amazing American. He was the guy he was an officer's officer. He was willing and ready and able for anything. But when it came down to it, he was also the people's champion. He was doing these extreme compassionate things for our community above and beyond on his time off, and quietly didn't want any recognition for it.
That's the thing. That is the biggest part I think we've been trying to impress on people is that is what revealed his character.
That's
he
right.
didn't want people to know. He didn't go out seeking attention. He just did what he felt like he needed to do as a human being, as a honorable, decent human being.
He left a mark, and he leaves a void in our city. There's no question about that. He was special. It's as if he were living his life knowing that he would not be here long because he lived it to the fullest, and he did everything he could for this community. He was just an amazing officer. It's a big loss, and the officers at Lafayette PD have taken it hard.
I can't even imagine. I mean, when we lose one of our coworkers, and we've lost it to illness, we've lost several to illness. We know we have to go on, but yeah, it does. It just, it's just like any other loss.
Unfortunately, this isn't the first interview I've done with a chief who's lost an officer in his department, and I know you haven't been here all that long, but, Lafayette has a way to just kind of wrap its arms around you when you come and your family. And the only way that it has ever been described to me by another chief I have interviewed was it's the closest thing to losing your own child as that, because they're your officers. Even though you're the chief and you have so many people in so many different areas, they're doing work on behalf of you too.
Police officers share a special bond with one another. And let me tell you guys, as I sit and think about what's going on in America, and there are those among us who want to take a knee, and all in the name of injustice and police brutality. Sunday night, my officers took a knee next to their fallen brother.
Wow.
For a couple seconds to say goodbye. And then they chased his killer down. Let it be known that Lafayette PD officers are the ones who chased that skunk through the woods and brought him to justice. Now, what does that say about duty or courage? Or, what does that say about these officers who knowingly went after this guy who had just murdered their brother? What does that say about the type of officers we have in Lafayette? And I sit here and I think, Bernie and Rob, that, I get so angry when I think about it. I want to rip this guy to pieces if I could get my hands on him. And yet those people, honorable people, went out and captured this guy and brought him to justice.
Book.
That's right.
Yeah.
Lafayette PD.
Because they took an oath of office.
They did exactly what Middlebrook would have done.
Absolutely.
We are so fortunate to have officers like that in our city. We are so lucky to have these people around us. I sit here and know that I am not worthy to serve with these officers. It is incredible what they accomplished that night. And let me tell you something, they are hurting. But that does not get in the way of duty and honor, sacrifice.
Yeah, because they know another call is right around the corner. Somebody else is going to need help.
It's unbelievable. And so you talk about, the courage that it takes, the bravery it took for those officers to do what they did, and all in the facing and knowing that their brother was down. I can't even imagine what it must have been going through, what they must have been going through, and I honestly don't know how they did it. I just don't know. But they did. Because
that's what they do. I can ask. I know you can't necessarily share details with us, but I can ask. Is there anything else that y'all are releasing right now about this situation? Or?
Well, when I became chief, one of the changes that was made at Lafayette PD was that any officer-involved shooting, we would step aside and allow the Louisiana State Police to take over the investigation. So as a consequence, I'm really not privy to many of the finer details of anything. And of course, it is still a pending investigation, so we don't want to talk about it. But I can tell you, I honestly don't know a great deal of the details.
What about crime in the city of Lafayette? I hesitate to say this because it feels as if we think these things and we look at numbers and we're like, well, is it really different? What do the numbers tell us about the number of people who have been murdered this year in Lafayette? Is it going up? It's going up, it seems.
So far, we've had 19 homicides in the city of Lafayette this year. Compare that to 16 homicides for the entirety of last year. And you can compare that to 20 homicides for the year previous to that. So in actuality, we're probably, statistically speaking, around what we normally see. Maybe a notch higher. So unfortunate. Every single homicide is such a tragedy on so many levels for the community.
Are they based in drugs, heroin?
Many of them. The majority, the majority of our homicides involve drug use, drug dealing, the vast majority of them, and then the others, too many others involve domestic violence.
Yeah.
And those are basically it. Those are the two things,
I know officers are doing what they can. I've asked you this question before. Do you really have enough officers?
Well, I would like to get more. Every chief needs more. It's my understanding when I looked at the history of the department that, I believe up to 25 years ago, Lafayette PD kept 20, or so road officers on at any given time. Today, 2017, it's the same amount. And the city has grown. And
well, it's grown and it's changed. Things have changed.
And things have changed. You're right. And so, it's something that we are addressing. It's something that the administration and the council have both been open to. Right now, I'm currently going after a grant, which will enable us to hire 10 additional officers for the Lafayette PD. We believe that we'll be successful in that endeavor. And we've also made plans that should we not receive those funds, and by the way, those funds would pay for 75% of the initial cost of getting those officers for the first 3 years, and that's big. The initial cost of hiring a police officer with all of the training and the equipment that's involved, it's very high. But over time, that cost goes way down. It's that initial cost that really gets you. So if getting these federal dollars to help us pay for that is a big deal. So we're hoping to know something by November 1st. But the council and the administration have assured me that nevertheless, whether we get it or not, we are working towards getting more officers.
So we have this complete confusion, if you will, because, officers are doing their job, right? We hope to God that judges are doing their job when it comes to violence, whether it's crimes associated with, drugs or it's domestic violence. We hope that the judges are doing what they need to be doing if there's violence associated in any of these crimes. But then we lead the globe in the amount of people that are incarcerated in the state of Louisiana. So we have this terrible contradiction, but how many more people are going to be murdered? Right. How many more women, is there a threshold for?
And that's the bottom line. And, I hear people saying, well, it seems like there's more crime. It seems like there's more homicides. There are more shootings. Well, and at the same time and out of the next breath, we need to take people out of jail. Well, which is it going to be?
I know. That's what it's like.
Which is it going to be? I mean, as a society, we really need to make that decision. Are we willing to live with because look, it's not going away. And the more folks we release out of jail and prison, and look, I understand people are addicted. That leads to most of our crime is addiction. I understand that, but show me a program that we can put them in that is cost effective, that is sure proof. And so where do we draw the line? And as a society, I really don't, I think we're very confused and we simply don't know.
Yeah.
Because people do not want to be known as the state that incarcerates the most. Nobody wants that. However, people also do not want to see the homicides.
Look at the guy they let out that he had served 24 years. That was 2 weeks ago, that story was now.
Oh,
that guy had served, the Angola release guy that was released. Yeah. He served 24 years, and now this man is a suspect in the death of a 10-year-old little boy and the harming of a 17-year-old.
Right. Not everyone that gets out of prison is going to commit additional crimes, but for me, it's about consequences. And right now, the message to criminals is there are no consequences.
That's what I'm wondering. Is that how it feels for a police officer?
That's how it feels for me. That's what it looks like from my seat.
Because you guys go and do your job.
That's right.
I know you're doing your job. I've heard from people. I hear constantly from people. You go and you arrest people, and then they get turned out of the jail, or they get turned out from a judge who gives nothing. And I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying, like you said, we have a contradiction. We need to have a continued conversation and figure out what we want to do and how we want to do it.
Right.
But when it involves violence, where are we in the drug situation? We're nowhere, basically.
That's right.
You have people who go to rehab 6 and 7 times and cannot kick the heroin addiction.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. Chief Toby Aguillar, it's been a tough couple of days. It'll be a tough week. It'll be a tough month for you guys.
What do you want to leave us with? What should we do?
I wanted the people to know that we've parked Officer Middlebrook's vehicle, his patrol unit, right in front of LPD. Mm-hmm. Feel welcome to drop flowers off, pay your respects. We did that as a department yesterday. We had a beautiful ceremony around his vehicle. Almost all the officers that could be there were there. Everyone with tears in their eyes, but we were there. And so I welcome the public to join in that shrine to him. And as we hopefully finalize plans, we'll be announcing that later today for his funeral. I would love if Lafayette continues to show the love, and let his family know that he meant something and that his mark will never be forgotten here.
And that it was huge. He had a huge impact, even though it wasn't advertised.
That's right.
The man had a huge impact not only on his family but his community as well.
That's right.
Chief, we appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Give our
for coming
best to
by.
your officers.